Hey gang, I am Joe Edelman and welcome back to The Last Frame Live. I'm back, refreshed, loaded with some new ideas that I want to share with you tonight. And of course, we're going to do the exclusive Last Frame Photography Q&A, so start typing. I'll do my best to answer all of your questions in the next 60 minutes. And if you're watching live, you know the drill. Please leave me a note in the chat. Let me know who you are and where you're watching from. Already, who's here? Nick's here from down in Maryland. Calvin up in Maine. Cooley out in Hobart, Indiana. David's here in San Diego. All of you are part of a growing global community of photographers in over 100 countries who tune in to watch The Last Frame every week. Look at this. We got Gerhard sneaking in from Austria. Eric is in Mexico City. Joe out in Vista, California. All of you, thank you. And by the way, if you're watching the replay, no worries. Drop a comment in the comment section below so that I know you were here. And for that, I will work really hard to help you with your photography tonight. And it would help a lot more people learn about The Last Frame if you could do me a solid, hit that thumbs up down below the video. The more thumbs up, the more YouTube recommends the show to other photographers. And of course, while you're down there, feel free to hit that share button. Let your photography friends know that we are streaming live on YouTube right now. Or you can go ahead and share the link, lastframe.live. I just dropped it in the chat window there for you. Twitter, Facebook, they're the fastest way to get the word out. Okay, so let's dive in here. First of all, let's begin with happy first day of summer. So I thought since it's summer, I would share a quick set of summer pictures that are kind of favorites of mine from some recent years. These are of my oldest grandson. This particular shot is done with an 11 millimeter focal length. It's actually the 7 to 14 millimeter Olympus lens. So that's about a 22 millimeter equivalent, shot at 1/3200th of a second, f2.8, ISO 200. But there's a couple things that I want to kind of wrap into a little tiny mini lesson here for you. And part of this is going to be a bit of a theme tonight because I've got a few things lined up that I want to show you that are going to have kind of the same message, because I think it's a message that everybody can benefit from, even if it's just as a reminder. So a couple things to observe in this picture, right? Number one, lots of color, but it's a color palette that is made from a kind of neutral earthy tone background, the green, right? Green trees, green grass, even greenish color shed in the upper right, which that really helps. We've got bright, bold primary colors in the color palette of the slip and slide, and then the boy wearing the bright yellow shirt to pull that attention to him, also with the blonde hair tying it all together, right? Notice the horizon's crooked. Who cares? It adds to the action and the energy of the diagonal lines of the slip and slide and him going down the slide, etc. But when you have an opportunity to photograph something like this, right? Whether it's one of your own kids, maybe you're at a park or a city pool where you're photographing things like this. A couple of things that I find a lot of photographers, and I'm basing this when I say a lot of photographers, I'm basing it on what I see on Instagram on a daily basis. I'm basing it on what I see on Facebook, and I'm basing it on what I see shared in my photography community, the Tog Knowledge community, as well as my Facebook group. And that is backgrounds and composition, right? I'm finding that, photographers are taking, new photographers especially, taking a little bit too much of an academic approach to composition. And they're learning, all of this rule of thirds crap and all that stuff. And it's crap. Can't say it enough. Because here's why. It's coming at the expense of really paying attention to what is in front of your camera. And gang, listen, I cannot impress upon you enough how important it is that you pay attention to the details in front of your camera. And believe me, tonight, I've got a whole bunch of examples that aren't just mine that I'm going to show you to really drive this point home. Okay? So in this picture, There is nothing in this shot that doesn't belong there. Believe me, in a perfect world, I would not have the shed there. And of course, with generative fill and AI, I could go back and I could remove that easy and make that perfect just brush back there. And I may at some point, but we're gonna take it pure as is, because that's as that was shot. There's no additional retouching to that. There hasn't been any cloning or copying or moving or anything like that. That's it, okay? But anytime you get an opportunity to shoot something like this, make sure you mix it up. Shoot a lot of different variations, right? Work the shot. So going from that wide angle now to a 300 millimeter lens, right? Shooting off in a distance using the grass, strictly as the background, still very shallow depth of field, trying to keep the lens wide open. And I also want you to note, and let me go back to the original shot. These are being done mid-afternoon, probably like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun is high. The sun is harsh. I want you to notice things aren't blown out, right? I've got detail in the face. I've got detail in the shadow areas. And ironically, this was done with a Micro Four Thirds camera, right? But this is not an ad for Olympus. I'm not an ambassador for them anymore. I'm not an ambassador for anybody. The point is proper exposure. So, some foundational conversation tonight. You got to pay attention to getting the right exposure. And with mirrorless cameras, gang, you really don't have an excuse. What you see is what you get. So pay attention to that exposure. Same idea, changing the angle again, going for some action, using the water. So the point is super low camera angle, mix it up, have some fun. It's summertime, at least here in northern part of the world. I know that I've got some folks from down under that tune in. I understand it's winter time for you guys, but up here, it's the warm times. Or if you're in Europe, South America, obviously, most of Southeast Asia, all that, if you're tuning in and watching this, now's the time. Get outside, use your cameras, take lots of pictures, because the weather is not an excuse. I'll be the first to admit I hate shooting outdoors in the winter. I'm not a fan of the cold. So you've got no excuse now, okay? All right, so first of all, where have I been? What did I take, 3 weeks off? I guess something like that. So a couple of things. One, honestly, I needed a little bit of a refresh. That's it. Number two, I started the month of June. I made that trip down to Precision Camera in Austin, Texas. I delivered the opening keynote presentation for their spring expo. And then on day 2, I did a demo and a hands-on workshop shooting fashion portraits with LED RGB tubes. We used the Nanlite Pavo tubes, which actually were a lot of fun to work with. I do have an image from that I'll share with you guys next week to show you how I, put that all together. And then, quite honestly, beyond that trip, my life has been baseball, and baseball. Both of my grandsons played baseball this year. I've got one that's about to turn 9, the other one who is a 4-year-old. The 4-year-old just played a game that they call quick ball. So it's really more of a skills game, but it's based on baseball. The 9-year-old, though, he's actually playing on 2 teams. Plus, he played on an all-star team this year, and his in-house team, they made it to the league championship and won. So I've been shooting a ton of baseball. But to continue the conversation about details and backgrounds, and the fact that the last time I talked about these baseball pictures, a lot of people followed up with quite a few questions. Because, look, a lot of you either have children, you have grandchildren, you have nieces, nephews. There are going to be opportunities to photograph sports or kids' sports along the way. And boy, isn't it nice if you can actually make it look like you know what you're doing, right? And certainly when it comes to photographing sports, there's a couple things worth pointing out, right? To get the best sports pictures, to be good at sports photography, you have to understand the sport. So first and foremost, I'll tell you right now, if you were to send me to photograph a hockey or lacrosse game, as an example, I would struggle horribly with both of those two sports because I'm not a fan of the sport. I don't understand the sport that well. So I may come away with some functional images, but I am not going to be nearly as efficient with those sports as if I were photographing a baseball game or even a football game. And soccer, I understand the game, but God, I hate photographing it. Period. Soccer is honestly a really tough game, mainly in the sense that um, you're going to shoot a full soccer game, and every now and then you get lucky and you'll get a lot of opportunities for really good action shots. But back in the day when I used to shoot a lot of soccer for high school and college sports, you could go for a full game and you might get one opportunity for a really great shot. And boy, if you missed it, that's it. You were going home with some really boring kind of static shots. So again, let me show you just a couple consistencies in terms of the way that I'm photographing these things. So this is my oldest grandson, and so this gallery is a combination of the two different teams he's played on this year. The orange uniforms that you see up at the top here, that's the in-house league. The blue uniforms, that's the travel league, which is still going on. That one's still happening, right? So the big thing for me is when I go out to shoot this stuff, I'll give you a breakdown. And I talked about a little bit of some of this stuff before, but since I've had so many follow-up questions, I want to kind of give you, this is my approach to how I do these shots with kids. So number one, I am always going to try and keep the backgrounds super, super simple. So there's that continued theme of pay attention to the backgrounds. And believe me, with kids sports, it's not always possible. I mean, here's a great example. This is a game that was 2 nights ago. And unfortunately, this was an away field, and this field was right next to a parking lot, right? So there's nothing you can do. There is going to be junk in the background. And when you're shooting with a lens that starts at 5.6 and goes to 6.7, depending on the focal length, you're not going to have like creamy bokeh backgrounds. And plus with baseball, even with 9-year-olds, you can't shoot super close. You're going to get hurt, right? So you still got to be at a distance. You're not going to be dealing with bokeh backgrounds. You may have heard me talk before about my little processing cheat to make the subject a little bit lighter than the background. But if you overdo that, it starts to look like you just cut them out, with a pair of scissors. So you can't do that. So some situations, there's nothing you can do about it, but your best. Other situations, though, your goal is keep those background clean. So obviously, if it's baseball. So it's about the ball. Whenever possible, you want the ball in the shot with the kids batting, if the kid's catching. It's important to have the ball. And you're looking for peak moments, right? It's always about the peak moments. Sure, when I go out and I shoot these things, in fact, here's images from his travel team. So these are pictures of other kids on the team. You'll notice again, looking for backgrounds as clean as possible, having other teammates during a game, like for a pitcher, the position players behind them helps tell the story. But every now and then you're going to have a situation like this field where, there's a parking lot like 15 feet away and there's a ton of cars there and there's nothing you can do about it. So you do the best you can. The other thing that's worth pointing out when I shoot kids sports is I always shoot on one knee. So I have a pair of carpenter's knee pads that are heavily padded. And trust me, it's worth making sure, spending a couple extra bucks. I think I spent like $30 for the pair that I have at Home Depot, but they're really nicely padded. And I only wear one on my right knee. So let me explain why I only wear one. If you think about this, and if you don't believe me, you can try it later, right? So I always use a monopod. I've got my Sony a7 IV. I have a battery grip on it so that when I shoot vertical, I have the release. And the 150 to 500 millimeter Tamron lens that I use has a tripod collar, so I can spin that camera vertical to horizontal really easily. So I use the monopod for camera support. So I get down on my right knee. That way, and keep in mind, I'm not exactly 20 years old anymore, right? So, but this would apply, I don't care what age you are. It's kind of simple body physics, okay? And you will see a lot of photographers, like at football games, do this same thing, okay? I get down on my right knee. That way, if there is a ball that is hit at me, and it's not like I'm on the playing field, but I'm right on the side of the playing field. I'm right along the foul line. So if a ball comes my way, I've got to get out of the way because there could be a play. There could be a player coming, literally, when I'm shooting these batters, there could be a player coming from behind me to try and make a catch. So I've got to move. I can't be the old guy that got too close and messed up the play. By being on one knee, I'm able to grab both hands on the top of the camera and then stand up with my left leg. I can get up a lot faster. If you get down on both knees, I don't care how old you are, you've got to work a lot harder and there's more steps to get up and move. On one knee, I can move quickly. The knee pads make sure that I'm not staining and ruining clothing, plus the fact that they're really well padded makes it really comfortable. It's not uncomfortable to do it. Why shoot low? Because they're kids. So I want to do pictures that make them look bigger, right? I want to shoot the game as if they were major league ball players. So I'm going to shoot very low. At this level, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, the goal is get the action. I mean, I shoot lots of faces like you see here and that kind of stuff, but the goal is get the peak action. Find, those peak moments. And, depending on the game, obviously, you want to get the plays at the different bases with kids sliding in, all that kind of action shots. All that stuff is super, super important, right? You want to get those peak moments of action that are happening because, and by the way, it's all about the faces, right? Get the ball, get the whole story. We've got the umpire, we've got the kid catching the ball, the kid running to the base, everything. So you want to be able to tell as much of the story as possible, right? For the younger ones, so my younger grandson, it's all about just being cute, right? These are 4-year-olds. So, it's about them having fun and goofing around. It's about, funny faces, funny facial expressions. He's a character. He has a blast when he goes. He's kind of in his own little world. And that's what I'm trying to photograph, right? But also, again, doing it from their perspective. So, yes, that's what I've been at for the last couple of weeks. The one trip, lots and lots of baseball with my oldest grandson making it into the championship. His team, they had a series of playoff games that they went through. They played a championship game. So thank all of you for your patience. But we're back. We'll be here every week, and we're gonna make some changes. I'll get to those, okay? A little bit of photo news / discussion for this week, really just to give you some updates. Number one, I don't think there's too many people that follow me that are overly concerned about this, but I did report on it previously, so I should at least follow up, and that is the fact that DP Review is not going away after all. Gear Patrol, the website, Gear Patrol, has purchased it from Amazon, and it is going to stay alive. That being said, so it's going to be the discussion forums, the articles, all of that kind of stuff. The two guys that do the YouTube stuff have already left. They're working for Petapixel. I assume they're going to stay with Petapixel at this point. And really what it means, if we're keeping it real, folks, right? I made my feelings clear before and managed to upset a few people. I would be thrilled to see DP Review go away. I find it to be the scourge of our industry. So there you go. You could hate me for that, right? But look, some people like their gear. That's fine. Unfortunately, all it's going to be going forward, if you go and look at Gear Patrol and what they are, it's basically going to be an affiliate link jungle. Which, DP Review was partly that before, right? Every article linked to people. So it's a site that's geared towards people that are going to be dumb enough to buy a new piece of gear every time a new piece of gear comes out and jump all over it and say, oh, I got to have it. And then get online and pretend that they know more than, everybody else and act like trolls, right? So it's not going away. It's going to be here. I mentioned that I was going to have an ongoing thread tonight about backgrounds, right? So I found this article today, phenomenal photos from the Audubon Photography Awards 2023. And I know I have a lot of people, in fact, there's a few people here tonight that like to photograph birds and animals and things like that. So I wanted to go through this just to point out a couple really important elements. And look, I understand for a lot of you, it's not like you're out there day after day after day after day with hours and hours and hours and hours and hours photographing birds or whatever. However, that doesn't mean you don't strive to achieve the situations that will allow you to make these kinds of pictures like you're about to see. So I want you to notice as we go through these, there's a professional award winner. There's an amateur award winner. Look at that, the timing on that shot, absolutely impeccable. Plants for Birds winners, youth winner. So there you go. I don't know how old the youth winner was, but yeah, we should all feel a little bit lacking if that's a kid that took that picture. Notice the simplicity of all these shots. That's the key, right? So number one, the photographers are clearly using the right lenses to be able to fill the frame with their subject, keeping things simple, etc. Subjects isolated, really jumping out the frame. But here's the real reason why I am pounding this clean background concept tonight. I started out and I kind of jumped all over the idea of the rule of thirds and how it's crap. And it is. Look, the rule of thirds holds value only to the extent that it can help you frame up an okay picture. The reason I say okay is because the rule of thirds is predictable, right? It's simply predictable. I promise you, if you develop the habit and the skill set of finding clean backgrounds, finding light that will allow you to isolate your subjects from the background, the more that you do that, the less you have to worry about perfect composition. And you certainly will not have to worry about any rules of composition. I promise you. So simplicity is key. And look, I get it. A lot of times for a lot of us, it's like, oh, look, there's a snowy owl and I've never gotten a photograph for that before. And I only have a 200 millimeter lens. So in the finished picture, I can crop it a whole bunch and that, but it's like, where's Waldo? And oh yeah, there it is right there, right? That's a picture that's a personal achievement, not photographically, really personally, because, oh, we finally found one. Photographically, it becomes a personal achievement when we're able to put the rest of the elements together, which, what is that going to require? That's going to require planning. It's going to require research and planning and preparation to know where to find the snowy owls, best time of day, best locations, etc., etc. And then you get the best shots, because the people that take these kind of images, none of these images were grab shots, I assure you. These are people that are putting a tremendous amount of effort into photographing wildlife. So also, I want to show you a set of, whoops, let me find the Facebook post. My apologies. That's not the Facebook post. Where is it? There it is. Okay. This is a gentleman that, number one, I'm in awe of. If you have been following along on Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest, the photography quotes that I post every day, Monday through Friday, you have seen a couple of quotes from this photographer. His name is Eric Miola. Mr. Miola was an assistant and student of a photographer by the name of Peter Turner, who is also another iconic photographer whose work had a tremendous influence on me early on. But there's a great breakdown that Eric posted of this image today. It was right out of the box. Take one look at that image. And in today's world, aside from the fact that there's a date there, so ignore the date for a moment, right? Any of us would assume that there is a pretty good amount of Photoshop work involved in that picture. And look, fairly assume. It's an awesome picture. So even if it was digitally done, it's still an awesome picture, right? But I want to go ahead and read this to you really quick because obviously on YouTube it's really small. And so he says this: once upon a time, a long time ago, there was no AI and there was no Lightroom, nor was there a program called Photoshop. In fact, it would be 5 years from the date this picture was taken until there was even a company called Adobe. It was 1982, if you notice down in the lower right-hand corner of the shot there. So he goes on to say, when we picked it up, our rental car reeked of alcohol. If you lit a match, the car would have exploded. The air conditioner didn't work. There were no other rentals, and it was 115 degrees in the midsummer Texas heat. We searched 3 days for a beautiful refinery in the swamps of Galveston, and every day we were drenched in sweat, and yes, there were mosquitoes. Swarms of them. The art director, always the team's visionary, which if you ever have the opportunity to do any commercial work, the art director is the driving force behind any project, and they also have the final say in the project. The art director kept mumbling light, jewel, refinery, city, futuristic, color. Those were his keywords that he was using as he imagined the sparkling metropolis that I would somehow pluck from the dark void of a petrochemical wasteland. And then we found it, he writes, a perfect quarter mile of refinery pipes vaulting into the sky, pungent with the aroma of 87-octane hydrocarbons in the fading light. I looked around for rattlers and planted my tripod in the muck. 4 decades ago, we put some calamine lotion on our arms, poured a ways at the airport, and flew back to New York to get the film processed. It took us a week to detox, but as I examined the Kodachrome in my light box, now here's where it gets amazing. Here's where we're going to hear about Photoshop and AI before there was Photoshop and AI. As I examined the Kodachrome on my light box, I was mesmerized by the intense electric emerald green of the refinery's sodium vapor lights, and I decided to dupe one of the shots from my portfolio, meaning duplicate it, for those of you that didn't shoot film, okay? But as I examined it at high magnification, I wondered how it would look as a reflection. I ran a roll of film through the camera, rewound the film, and ran it through again, adding the moon through a third and fourth exposure. Through a bit of luck and using a Nikon F3 camera with a modified transport, I was able to align the exposures in camera. And that's how Petropolis was photographed, as they say, back in the day. So number one, awesome image. Yes, I think Mr. Miola is, kind of doing a little bit of, back in the day we used to, have to walk uphill to school both directions, right? Certainly it was a lot harder. But the fact of the matter is the kind of imagery that we create today is not unique to today. The way we create it is unique, but it's also a reminder of just how fortunate we should all feel as far as the tools that we have available to us, the technology that we have, and also a reminder that this concept of doing things that aren't real in photography is not a product of Photoshop. It is not a product of AI. It is simply a product of creative imagination. And photographers have been doing things like that for decades, right? So I would encourage all of you, by the way, if you've never seen Mr. Miola's work, check it out. I'm going to go ahead and share the link in the chat. I'll add it to the description underneath the video for those of you that are watching it later. It is simply ericmiola.com. Absolutely incredible imagery. And in fact, he was the Lifetime Achievement Award winner at Imaging USA for PPA this year. This man's been at it for a while, and he is still going, still extremely active, doing commission work, personal projects, books, gallery shows. And, as some of these images go by, I'm sure you can easily understand, if you've ever looked at my work, why I am such a fan of his work. And also Peter Turner, who was a photographer who had a very early influence on Mr. Miola, because the two of them have both just done incredible color work throughout their career. And you have to understand those older images from back in the 80s that you saw, as well as the work that Peter Turner did back in the 70s, the 80s, and 90s. These two guys were doing things with color film that most photographers, myself included, would look at and just be mind blown as to how they were able to get that kind of saturation out of their colors and the boldness and the intensity. And that's a big part of what drove it to me. And it's had a lasting impact just on the way that I see the world and the way that I like to create images. I want people to feel something when they look at my images. And you know what? If they hate it, that's fine. If I can use color in a way that's going to make an adverse reaction, I'm okay with that too. But the point is, if I accomplish that, they took the time to notice. My picture made them notice. My picture made them feel something. Sure, I'd prefer they look at it and say, wow, that's amazing. Of course, right? But if I can accomplish the goal of getting them to look at it, notice it, and feel something from it, then I've done a good job, right? That's the key. So one other thing for you, and we'll get into a Q&A. So I've only got a couple questions in there, and it's only 6:30, so I've got some time, right? Type away. How can I help you? We haven't been here for a while, so or tell me what you've been working on. What have you been working on? How's it going? How might I be able to help you? Let's go from there. But I did post a new image up on Instagram this week that I wanted to go ahead and share with you guys. I've had a few people ask me recently, hey, do you miss the live composite feature in the Olympus cameras now that I'm shooting Sony? The short answer is, well, of course. It's an amazing, amazing feature. And admittedly, since I've made the switch over to Sony, I haven't really had an opportunity to play around with doing any light painting in the studio in similar ways to what I used to do it with the Olympus cameras. So I finally had an opportunity to do that. So this shot that I posted, and by the way, here, I'll put the link into my Instagram profile. If you're not following me, please do. I will tell you this, every one of my posts is a lesson. So they're all carousels. Make sure that you scroll through the carousel because you'll see lighting diagrams, behind the scenes, pictures, video clips, all kind of stuff, and read the captions. The captions are not just 3 words. They're very long. They're all lessons. So this is a shot that was all done in camera. This is not created in post. It's not composited. This is all in camera. The background, in fact, here, actually, let me switch over to Instagram. So it'll be a little bit small here, but here you can see the lighting arrangement. Okay, it's 4 lights. Key light, Godox 8200. It's in a 33-inch Photox Ronnie softbox. That's a nice shallow ones. It's above on camera left. 2 rim lights with orange gels and a black background with a background light aimed at it, also with an orange gel to create that little bit of orange glow back there, right? And then a 20-second exposure. During that 20-second exposure, I am using this gadget. So what this is, it is a bottle brush, if you will, from a company called Light Painting Brushes. So website, lightpaintingbrushes.com. I will also add that to the description below the video when I'm done. If you check out the Instagram post, you'll find the links and tags to them, etc. Okay, so there's a little blue gel in here. That's why it's got the blue base. You can get these in different colors. This is the adapter, which is just a piece of rubber. You can screw it in or you can just push it in, right? And then from there, I'm going to use a high-powered tactical flashlight. And all I have to do is slide that in, like so. When I turn the flashlight on, I now have this blue shape. This flashlight, I'm not going to do it in the video because I don't want to cause or trigger anybody that may have epileptic seizures and that type of thing. But this flashlight also has a setting that will allow it to strobe. It's just flash, okay? So again, I'm not going to do that on this YouTube video, but that's what I am doing in this shot. During the 20 seconds, I am going behind the subject in several different directions and creating the paths. That's why you see kind of these, almost like multiple exposure of this, because it's flashing as it's going. And then the very last thing is I'm coming back in front of her and I am creating the line of blue that goes in front of her. So again, none of that's added in post, none of it's overlays, it's not composited. That's it, it's all one shot. There is a fan, camera left, blowing her hair. Not a real heavy fan, just to keep it back off her face and give it a little bit of a little bit of energy. Full disclosure, big part of the reason why I did it, I did not have a makeup artist available for this shot. I'm not particularly good with hair, and I didn't want to have her hair slicked back because I can clean up slicked hair, but to style hair, that's not happening. So I intentionally decided, okay, that being the case, I'm going to create a shot where the hair being a little messy or a little bit chaotic makes sense, right? So that's also part of why I went with the fan, so that having that little bit of chaos and some of the flyaway strays, knowing that I was using rim lights and knowing that they would light up, it works, right? It doesn't distract from what's going on. Going back to this also, gearless. So this was shot with the A7R4A, the Tamron, the 70 to 180 at about 75 millimeter focal length. As I mentioned, 20-second exposure. F8 was the aperture. Now, by the way, I did not have to have the room pitch black. That was the nice part. And that was kind of my big concern about doing this with, a camera other than the Olympus, because with a live composite, I could have the lights on. But then I realized that was a really foolish concern. I just had to work at an exposure that would eliminate the ambient. So the key was, I was thinking it was going to be around 10 or 20 seconds. So basically, I worked out the exposure with the flash to f8 and then set the camera to 20-second exposure and just fired a frame without the flash. No light painting, no nothing. Just fired a frame without the flash to see if I would have anything on the frame. So the goal was to be able to come up with an exposure that would get me a black frame. So the room wasn't bright, but it also wasn't pitch black, meaning I could see to move around the room. I wasn't banging into things in the dark or tripping over things or anything like that. So yes, it was very dark, but not pitch black, which was great. So that's basically the way you test it, is you want to make sure that the exposure you're planning to shoot your shot at is going to give you black, a black frame, without any of the light painting or without the flash. Once you've got that, you're good to go. Okay. So for Godox AD200s, the lightpaintingbrushes.com bottle that you see here, right? The Photix Ronnie 2, the folding beauty dish, Savage Universal paper background number 20, the black, the Cheetah Stand pistol stand, which I love, and the Cheetah Stand C8 light stands are the ones that you tap them on the ground and the legs pop out. So awesome. I love these stands. Acrotech ball head on the Cheetah stand, and then 3 Magma grips with orange gels on the grips. That was the full setup. So fun shot. I will definitely do more now that I've kind of realized I was making it harder in my head than it needed to be, because the light painting stuff, honestly, it's a lot of fun. And it's a whole nother way to really create a lot of interesting backgrounds. And that brings me to my plans. So, full disclosure. Well, actually, part of this you know, but then I'll give you some full disclosure. January of 2022, so a year and a half ago, I dropped all of my sponsorships. I have no sponsors. I do have an arrangement with Tamron where from time to time they hire me to teach. They do not give me free gear. I don't have any kind of quid pro quo beyond the idea that they know that I use Tamron lenses exclusively, which was not a sponsorship choice. That was honestly a balance of quality and pocketbook wallet choice. And so they will pay me to teach at some events. Okay. And I've done that 3 or 4 times, and hopefully we'll do that more because I really enjoy that arrangement a lot. Why did I drop the sponsorships? Because I realized that ultimately I made a mistake. And I don't regret it. I'm glad I did it. But I learned a lot through it, and I'm glad I learned a lot through it. But I also learned that that is not what I want to be sharing with the photography community. So what do I mean? I will tell you over the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of changes in this influencer space. There are a lot of YouTubers that some of you like and appreciate who are friends of mine, dear friends, that are sweating bullets right now. They are running scared. Views on YouTube in general, the platform, are way down. It's not like it used to be. And that's not a surprise, right? It's really not. Consumers, you folks, are also getting a lot smarter, meaning you all understand that an influencer, that's just another word for salesperson. So even if an influencer is, and this is where my decision came from, even if an influencer is sharing knowledge and information with you, there's still a motive behind it. There's still a sales pitch. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I did probably over 6 years or so of doing the influencer thing, it's like a drug, I'm not going to lie. I got caught up in the, wow, look, I can get this piece of gear free and I can get that piece of gear free. And all I have to do is show it in a video. And even though it didn't cost me any money, I was essentially doing the same thing that a lot of you do. Ooh, new piece of gear. Gotta have it because it looks cool. Is it going to make me a better photographer? No. Is it going to change my photography? No. Every now and then there's something that might make something a little bit easier. But in 5 years, did any of that stuff make me better? No, not even remotely. So what I wound up with is I reached this point where I realized that I've got a ridiculous amount of gear. When I say gear, I don't just mean cameras. I mean, modifiers, everything. I literally at one point, I had like 40 some light modifiers. So I'm talking like umbrellas, softboxes, all kinds of stuff. Why? There's no, I have 4 now, and they are 4 very different, literally just 4. And they are 4 very different modifiers, right? So they do serve very different purposes. So for me, I realized like this makes no sense. And this is not what I want to be. I want to be somebody that's sharing information that, 1, is going to help people get better. 2, is going to hold people accountable to getting better. Not just buying gear and doing all those things, right? And look, I mean, no disrespect to all these different companies. They're still using influencers. Most of them will for a while, but it's going to change. In the marketing world, the entire concept of influencers is changing dramatically. In fact, now even there's a whole new category of influencers that are called de-influencers. And their entire thing that they do Not so, I don't think there's any in the photography space. I mean, maybe you could call me one, but I'm not looking for a label and I refuse that label. But their entire thing is to basically try to educate people about what's really coming out of the influencers' mouths to understand what you can trust and what you can't trust and what you can believe and what you can't believe and, you know, that kind of stuff. So anyway, for me, one of the things that people have always commented that they really appreciate me doing is the DIY stuff. In other words, the money saving stuff. So for all these videos that I was putting out about gear and gear and gear and, you know, all that stuff, it's like completely in the opposite direction. So I'm not going back to making videos. That's not happening, but I'm going to use this platform, The Last Frame, on a weekly basis. Each week, I am going to share a DIY tip or hack. So sometimes it will be like, for instance, here's one that you've never seen me share before, which I'll show you in the next week or so. I'm going to show you how to take a regular round softbox, like the Photox Ronnie that I use as an example, and turn that into a parabolic softbox for a couple of dollars, literally a couple of dollars. So, and it will work exactly like a much, much more expensive parabolic softbox. And the reality of it is that most photographers, most of you, don't really need a parabolic box. Or if you do, it's a very rare occasion where you do. So for the few times that you would actually need that kind of a late shaper, for a couple of bucks, you can take your existing round softbox and you can turn it into a round parabolic softbox. So easy, you're going to kick yourself for not thinking of it. So some of them will be those kind of DIY hacks like I've done in the past. Others are just going to be things like, hey, in a pinch, if you don't have a makeup artist, what's a great way to get rid of the shine on somebody's face on a hot summer day, right? So it's hacks and tips. And indeed, along the way, we're going to talk a little bit about gear, but, and this will be the part where maybe you could say, well, you're part of that de-influencer category, so be it. But we need to just finish with these labels. What I want to do is I want to walk you through some of the popular gear pieces as they come out. And shall we say, as my father would have said back in the day, I want to try and talk some sense into you about whether or not you really need it, right? Or whether or not it's really going to make a difference. And really get to the kind of nuts and bolts nitty gritty of what might that piece of gear do for you. And look, if you've got disposable income and you can afford to go buy an extra piece of gear just because it's cool, then good for you. But most of us don't have that. I don't have that kind of money. And so I'm going to break it down to a practical sense, because for me, in part because my father, he was the kind of guy, he could fix anything. He could find a way to put almost anything together. And believe me, when I was a kid, it used to drive him nuts because I couldn't remember the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey thing. And I could never figure out which way to turn the darn screwdriver. I was hopeless. So fortunately, it stuck with me. But yeah, when I was younger, I could not do that stuff at all. But now, you know, when I see a cool, expensive gadget come out, first thing I do is think, well, how can I do that on the cheap? Because I don't need that gadget every day. It'd be cool to do one or two things with it, but I don't need it every day. So how can I do it on the cheap when I do need it, right? So that's the kind of stuff that we're going to be getting into. And honestly, it takes me back a little bit more to my roots, because I do have a couple other projects that I'm working on that I will be able to share a little bit more about in the coming weeks and let you know what they are. Really cool stuff, stuff that I'm really excited about. But I wanted to let you know that, The Last Frame, it's here to stay. It's going to be happening every week. I've also got some really cool new educational programs that are coming out for the fall. I do have one more that's going to get added for July. I'll be able to share information with you guys about that next week. And also have a lot of new stuff coming in my Tog Knowledge community, which And by the way, those of you that are here and listening, if you haven't joined Tog Knowledge yet, can I just point out a couple things real quick? And I won't spend a lot of time on this because I hate advertising stuff. But I'll share the link. First of all, there's a 7-day free trial, so you can join the community, try it out, and see for yourself. You don't have to take my word for any of it. You shouldn't take my word. I'm some guy on YouTube, right? But if you do decide to join Tog Knowledge, right, and stay with it, $6.25 a month. That's $75 a year. That's it. And for that, you have complete access to me for information, for learning, as well as over 300 photographers from all around the world and all kinds of learning resources. So I would encourage you, I just put the link in the chat window there. Check it out, okay? All right, so anyway, enough of my stuff. Let's dig in here. Keith, thank you for the very kind words about Tog Knowledge. I think it's pretty cool, and it's getting even better. We're getting more and more people involved, more and more people really, posting and participating. The conversations are going really well. So yeah, I'm very excited about the community. Coolly, am I still working on the book? I am, and I'm working pretty aggressively on it at this point. So I will share more before the summer's over. I think you're all going to be kind of pretty stoked about it, but I can't get into a whole lot right now because there's still some business dealings happening behind it. But yes, it's coming. It's been pretty much a big part of every day of mine for best part of the last month and going forward. So it's a chunk of my day that I've got blocked out every day to sit down and write. Plus I'm doing some shooting for it. So yeah, there's stuff coming. Okay. Let's see here. Whoops, I'm on the wrong screen. There it is. David, Joe is one of the most authentic and genuine photography educators around. Oh, thank you, David. No labels, no agenda. What you see is what you get. I try. I do certainly try. Nick's got another comment here about that. He said, I don't know, Joe, I think you're overstating. If you were shilling male enhancement products, I thought you were always measured when discussing products. You never said you'd have to rush out and buy anything today. Well, I will say this, Nick, and Nick, thank you. One thing I will say in my defense that I am very proud of, and you just stated it, Nick, even when I was an Olympus ambassador, which, look, gang, I'm not bragging. I'm just stating a fact. Like getting to be a camera brand ambassador, that's a big deal, right? That's like making it to the top of the mountain. That was so exciting for me. People ask me all the time, it's like, whoa, you're going to get your tattoo removed? Like, hell no, because there's very few photographers that get to do that. So that's an honor that I always take with me. But the cool part is, I can tell you sincerely, in all the time I was an Olympus ambassador, I never told anybody to buy an Olympus camera. And I made it really clear with Olympus, when I started as ambassador, I see the biggest benefit that I can bring to you as a company is proving to people that they can do anything with an Olympus camera that they can do with any other camera. And that's what I did. And you folks heard me time and time again tell people, look, don't take my word for it. Go out and rent one. Go out and try one, go to a camera store, go to an event where there's going to be Olympus reps and try them out and see for yourself, right? So yes, I'm very proud of the fact that I did that. And I did that with any product that I dealt with. But at the same time, what happens when you're doing all those product pieces? Because even today, I literally on a daily basis, I get 3 to 4 emails a day. Hey, we'd love to send you this piece of product in exchange for, doing a video. I'm not exaggerating, folks. Literally every day. And look, 2/3 of those emails, it's junk stuff from China, like somebody selling on Amazon. But the other third is stuff that I look at and be like, that'd be really cool. I'd love to have that. But my new approach is, do I need it? Do I need it enough that I would go out and buy it? If I can answer yes to that, I may say yes and then go ahead and do it. But the problem is, when I do that, all of that messaging that I'm going to give you, all the time I'm going to spend talking about that stuff, is going to take away from, honestly, my mission statement. And if you've ever seen me give a presentation, even at the beginning of the last frame, you see the screen that is really my mission statement, right? Helping photographers develop a better understanding of the hows and whys behind making consistently great photographs. So none of this gear that I'm going to tell you about helps achieve that mission statement, right? So it's really a matter of me. Honestly, it's kind of getting back to the basics. It's getting back to the stuff that did help me build a following and that people really gravitated to me for in the beginning. And that was the hacks. It was the DIY stuff. It's like, look, I've been shooting freaking forever. And along the way, if you shoot long enough, I don't care how good you are, because I'm not the best, but along the way, you pick up a lot of tricks, right? Tricks that save people time, tricks that help people improve their work, right? That's the stuff that I think I really need to focus on. Because look, and I talk a lot of times about, kind of these other influencers or these other YouTubers. Look at some of these younger photographers, people that pop in on my chats every now and then, the Manny Ortizes or the Irene Rudnicks. I mean, come on, these kids are so freaking talented. Yes, I hate them a little bit because I can't see the world the way they do. Yeah, I'm incredibly jealous, but that's the point, right? I don't need to be putting creative stuff out there that is lesser because these people are much, much more talented than me. But what I have that they don't have is 5 decades of experience, right? And that's the piece where I can bring a lot of value, even to help them. So it's really kind of me just realizing, like, look, I need to kind of do a little bit of a course correction. I've gotten off course. I fell prey to the influencer game and to some of the spoils that go with it. And I'm glad I did it, and I'm honored that I had the opportunity. But it's ultimately not where I can provide the most value to the community. And, part of being that person that's not beholden to all these companies, it also affords me the ability to talk frankly and honestly about what's good and what's bad about a lot of these companies. And that is a problem that we have in our industry. We need to work a little bit more as a community and hold some of these companies accountable, hold them accountable for their pricing, hold them accountable for their design choices. We simply do, right? And it's conversations that need to be had. And it's an awareness that needs to be created among photographers that, like, look, if you're going out and buying this brand, you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars more than you need to for what you're doing, but you've fallen prey to the marketing, right? To help people honestly make better choices and better purchases. So that, again, that's really why it's become a priority for me, and why I want to get back to those basics. There's an earlier message in here from Nick. I got to go back to this one. This one was pretty good. So, hey, Joe, can you help me accept that I may as well sell the 3 DSLRs that I have collecting dust for 35 cents on a dollar, as opposed to keeping them until they're worth 35 cents? I don't know, Nick. Depending on which DSLR, they may only be worth 35 cents now. But, yeah, I mean, look, I hate to say the reality of it is that pretty much most camera gear at this point is like many other things in life. It's kind of meant to be disposable, right? Even if you buy the next Sony camera that comes out, any brand, I'm not picking on Sony, but even if you buy the next Sony camera that comes out, a year and a half from now, when they upgrade that model, your camera that you just bought is going to be worth a fraction of what it should be worth, because we've created this philosophy, if you will, within our industry that, you got to upgrade. So people aren't interested in stuff that's like literally 1 generation old, which is ridiculous. Because in other realms, even in the photography world, prior to digital, I frequently worked with cameras that were 2 and 3 generations old and loved them and produced great work with them because there weren't enough feature differences to make it worth my while, to upgrade. And we're getting to a point where in some areas of technology, actually, like, this is a great example. So this is an iPhone 13. I may upgrade to the 15 only because this phone is now only working at 87% battery capacity. But from a feature standpoint, will I be looking at the iPhone 15 and say, oh my God, I gotta get that phone? No. This is a piece of technology that for me has evolved to the point where unless something incredibly revolutionary comes out, I don't need to be using the latest one. There is no benefit. Even with my Sony cameras, I'm not using the latest models, right? They were the latest when I purchased them, but both have been replaced now. And they'll probably be replaced again next year, and there's no need for me to upgrade. So I think, unfortunately, that's just how our industry is right now. And part of the reason is that the technology is moving ahead so fast, right? But there's also that we could flip the question and say, well, are companies, camera companies especially, are they taking advantage of that? Sure they are. Of course they are, right? They could hold on a little bit longer and add more features into this camera, right? And then go for a longer stretch before they release the next one. But then they don't make as much money. They don't profit as much because they know that there are suckers that will buy this camera and then 14 or 15 months later buy the next camera that's got minimal improvements or minimal upgrades. So it's kind of one of those things. As long as photographers support that, then companies are going to keep doing it. The minute companies stop doing it, or excuse me, the minute photographers stop doing it, companies will stop doing it because then there's no value to them, right? So that's kind of part of what I talk about with, holding these companies accountable in that regard. I mean, yeah, Nick, you could hang on to them long enough. Maybe the Smithsonian will want them, or they make good paperweights. I will say that old cameras are great paperweights. But yeah, if you've already got your mirrorless gear and you're shooting, exclusively mirrorless at this point, the DSLRs served you well. It's kind of the cost of being a photographer, and you move on, right? That's pretty much it. Okay. All right, gang. So, I got a couple more here, and I missed them down there. I'm sorry. Let me scroll on down here. Rob Trek, you're being very humble tonight. I think you're one of the best educators in the world. Well, thank you, Rob. Seriously, to everyone, the $75 a year to access the community opportunity I want to pass. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that, Rob. Jay, a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned that you had a download service for your grandson's baseball pictures. What service did you use, and what were your determining factors? Yeah, Jay, it's actually those pages that I showed you. Here, let me bring it back up. It's a company called slickpick.com. The determining factor is that I don't do any e-commerce on here. So these work very similar to SmugMug, PixieSet, Zenfolio. But SmugMug, PixieSet, and Zenfolio, they have the ability for you to do e-commerce, sell digital downloads, sell prints, but you don't have to do any of the fulfillment, right? All the e-commerce happens online, like with SmugMug. All the e-commerce happens online. If somebody orders an 8x10, SmugMug tells you this is what your 8x10s cost from Bay Photo in San Francisco. You set the price in for the markup. When the transaction happens, SmugMug deducts the price of the print, sends the order off to Bay Photo. You get the balance of the money, the profit, and then Bay Photo ships the print to the client. So that's where the determining factors were. The other thing that I love about SlickPick, they're using some really, really cool technology that allows their sites to work really, really fast. So yeah, overall, just really, really well put together. But for the sake of what I'm doing, with these teams where I'm just sharing these pictures, I'm giving these pictures to the parents of the kids. And I explained before, because I realized that might sound like a really dumb business thing. I'm not doing it for business. I'm actually doing it for my grandson. It's all about goodwill. I want lots of access to these games. I want to be able to walk and go wherever I want and do whatever I want. And so the fact that these parents get all these amazing pictures, they love me, right? They love that I'm there. So that's really, why I give the pictures away at that point. I go to the games to shoot my grandson. But the fact of the matter is, it's a baseball game, so it's not like he's active and there's something to photograph him doing every second of every game. So I just shoot the whole game. I still get my pictures of my grandson, but you know, I get pictures of the other kids, and plus for me, it's great practice. I'm not gonna lie, I've been having a ton of fun doing that stuff. Okay. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of it. But Jay, if you do have other questions on it, you know, let me know if I can, you know, answer them online. Or oh, there you go. So you want to share some high school reunion pictures? Yeah, Slick Pick is awesome. They have various plans. You can even do like website plans with them. But all you need is basically like a gallery plan to be able to have access to galleries. And they may even have like a free basic version. So depending on how many images you're going to have. So check that out. But if you have any other questions about them, let me know. I've been really happy with them. So, all right, gang. So listen, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We are out of time and I'm over time. Shocker. But seriously, thank you for watching. I hope you found some value in the things that I share with you tonight. Don't forget, please hit a thumbs up below the video. Help other people find out about the show. And remember, you don't get back the days that you waste. So go pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot, it's your next shot. Adios, gang. Have a great week.